I'm Tony Machadri.
I'm Kenneth Edwards.
I'm Todd Kwasny.
I'm Amy Brzezinski.
I'm Steven Zinter.
We're the Odin Flight Control Group on the final shuttle mission.
And you're watching NASA TV.
From Launch Complex 39 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, this is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. And we're now in the final 5 hours of the countdown for the launch of the last flight of the Space Shuttle program and Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-135. This is the 135th launch of the Space Shuttle program, the 33rd launch of Space Shuttle Atlantis, its 12th to the International Space Station, and overall the 37th flight to the International Space Station by the Space Shuttle. This is currently planned as a 12-day mission that would have the landing at Kennedy Space Center occurring on July 20th. Here's our commander, Chris Ferguson. He's in the suit-up room. He's having a fit check of his helmet. He's our commander on this flight, and going over to pilot Doug Hurley. This is his second trip into space. He completed his first space flight on STS-127, and he's logged more than 376 hours in space. And here is Mission Specialist number 1, Sandy Magnus. This is her third space flight. She spent more than 4 months in space aboard the International Space Station. She flew on STS-112, logged 11 days in space, and then 4.5 months after being on board the space station as a member of the Expedition 18 crew. This is Rex Walheim. He's our Mission Specialist number 2. He's making his third space flight. He's spent more than 24 days in space on STS-110 and STS-122, and he's had 5 spacewalks totaling more than 36 hours. And here they come. Crew going down the elevator where they'll be greeted by employees from Kennedy Space Center and members of the news media. This is the same elevator that's been used by the astronauts ever since Apollo. This is shuttle launch control, T-minus 2 hours, 38 minutes, 26 seconds and counting. The Astrovan is now on the pad surface. The crew will be disembarking, and in just about 5 minutes they'll be headed up to the White Room to begin boarding. Our commander, as is customary, will be first aboard. Crew is doing what many of the crews like to do before they go up and board. They like 5 minutes or so to go up on the pad and take a look at Atlantis, pose for some pictures in front of the shuttle before they board. And then head over for the elevator. Commander Chris Ferguson and pilot Doug Hurley will enter the White Room shortly. Our mission specialists, Sandy Magnus and Rex Walheim, will probably wait outside a little bit and take the time to look around, enjoy the view from up there while the commander and pilot board. The flight crew is now in the White Room of the Orbiter Access Arm. Members of the closeout crew are in the white coveralls, and the astronauts, of course, are in the orange pressure suits. The closeout crew will be assisting the astronauts with their helmets and other equipment as they enter the orbiter. And the closeout crew is scheduled to seal the orbiter access hatch at 6:56 a.m., but this can be done up to an hour later if that's really necessary. Joining us right now here in the firing room is Jim Kelly, astronaut Jim Kelly. He was selected by NASA to become a NASA astronaut in 1996, and he was pilot on STS-102 in 2001 and STS-14 in 2005.
And I'll tell you just a little bit about the closeout crew here. The closeout crew has been in existence, obviously, since the beginning of the shuttle, and they're just an outstanding group of folks. They've been together for a long time. We might not even see him here for a little while, but Travis Thompson's the lead. He's number one. They all have numbers on the back of their gear and on their hats and things like that. And number one is called the OVCC, Orbital Vehicle Closeout Chief. He's been the crew lead, has 28 years on this team. This is an incredibly experienced and dedicated team that gets the people on the orbiter, and Travis is in charge of the whole thing. And not only is he in charge of this one, but he's in charge of the whole closeout crew. We can see here Chris Ferguson getting put into his seat, and the folks that are helping him get into his seat there are the number two. If you can see the number two on him is Randy Brezhnik. He's actually a Marine Corps colonel. He's one of our astronauts. You can see him in the one screen. And Randy is actually getting on there to help out with the communications sections and all those kind of things. But the guy running the operation is Drew Billingsley, who's number three. And you can see him kind of climbing all over there.
They are complete.
Doug has gotten in from the middeck, and you kind of have to go in through the middeck, through the hatch, and in the middeck you kind of take a right, about a 90-degree right. You have to go through the ladder access, which normally when you're vertical you'd be climbing the ladder. In this case you're going right. And then you actually crawl on the aft panels, and you can see that Randy's actually standing on the aft panels there as he gets folks ready to get in the vehicle. So we've got things down there that protect the aft panels, a certain place where you can stand. Like you notice, for instance, Randy's not standing on the switches. We can't stand there. But it's kind of intricate. You have to weave your way around. And so you come in the hatch, you turn to your right for about 90 degrees, go about 5 feet. You drop down to the aft panels, aft lower panels of the flight deck, and then you climb up on the Mission Specialist 2 seat, and then you have to get yourself up in the pilot or commander seat. So these are the hardest 2 seats to get into, and it's kind of a monkey bar thing. There's a grip up there that they grab with their hands, and then they put their feet up there, and oftentimes you'll see the technicians, either Drew or Randy, helping them get their feet up there and get all situated. And then the critical thing is getting yourself on the parachute correctly. You want to get yourself all the way down in the seat as far as to the seat pan as you can, because the shoulder straps of the parachute can be quite painful if you don't get those a little bit loose. So you want to make sure you're as far down in the seat pan as possible. So you'll see a lot of adjustments here where they're pushing on them and pulling on people and getting them in the right place. And it's kind of a manhandling task. Obviously with the suit weighs a lot. It usually weighs about 50 to 60 pounds. And so they're carrying a lot of extra weight, and it's bulky, and it's hard to get where you want to go. And that's why we have so much extra help in there for the. You can see back in the white room here, you can see Sandy saying goodbye to everybody. Everybody gets pretty close like I talked. These guys are really proud of the job they do. We actually got a nice shot there of number 6 and number 7. Number 6 is the guy that's not USA. He's actually NASA quality. So USA has the contract to do all the operations there in the white room, make sure everything's done right. They're the guys getting all the equipment out of the vehicle. They're the ones taking care of the hatch. They're the ones taking care of all the crew equipment that has to go in. But NASA has their own representative out there. In this case, it's Jack Burrett. He's number 6 on your screen before. 25 years in the space program. He's done 15 launches, and his job is really to check everything else that's being done. He's got the checklist that he looks at, and he watches over and behind and goes after and makes sure that everything that the USA technicians do is absolutely perfect.
So Sandy's in the back on the right, and Rex Walheim is right in the center between the commander and the pilot. Is that his vantage point?
That is correct. Yeah, the center seat, which is actually where Randy's standing right now, he's actually standing on the seat that Rex is going to go into. And what he's doing is he's actually throwing some switches for the pilot and commander, make sure they can reach them, make sure that they're in the correct configuration, because there's a few switches that need to be thrown, as well as checking the caution and warning system before they're done strapping things in.
Take to not perform under the header. Copy.
See out in the white room, that's Chris Menard again, number 5. You got Travis, number 1, and they're just getting Rex in. So hopefully, if things go well today, this will be the last astronaut you'll see climbing into a vehicle to go fly in space on the shuttle. You can see both Doug and Fergie in the front are both completely set up with their gloves. They've got their helmets. They've already done that pressure check I was talking to you about, where they fill up the suit completely and get that all done. You can see Sandy back there is doing her final adjustment. She's getting her microphones, her booms. They come off the comm cap all set there. Randy's kind of going up above her now. Once Drew gets done, Drew's responsible for making sure all the connections are good. Once he's done, like I said, everything gets double-checked. Then Randy will come by after him. He'll check all those connections, and then he'll ask the astronaut. So he's talking to Sandy right now. He'll be asking her to check all her connections. You know, show me where your harness connection is. Show me where your bladder connections are for your lumbar support. The bladder for the lumbar support. Show me where your green apple is. The green apple is the emergency oxygen that they fly with. And so on their right hip, we've seen it a couple times with Doug, you can see a green apple there, as we call it. If you pull that out, then you get an emergency supply of oxygen that goes into your suit. So Randy is busy talking with Sandy and making sure she can feel all those connections are all set for her. She's all set, and he's doing that.
MS1, this is OTC. I got you loud and clear. How many? And I have you loud and clear as well. Good morning, Sandy. Good morning.
And attention all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the launch status check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
OTC is go.
TBC.
Tank and booster go.
PTC.
PTC is go.
LPS.
LPS is go.
Houston flight.
Houston flight, if you pull me at the end, I would appreciate it. Stand by.
Yes, sir, we'll pull you later. Mila.
Milo's go.
STM.
STM is go.
Safety console.
Safety console is go.
SPE.
SP is go.
LRD. LRD is go. SRO.
SRO is go. You have a range clear to launch.
And CDR.
CDR is go.
And Launch Director NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed with the exception of Flight, who still needs a little bit more time to make his evaluations on RTLS weather.
I copy that. I'll do my poll at this time. KC Chief Processing Engineer, verify no constraints to launch.
No constraints.
Thank you, Steve. KC Safety and Mission Assurance.
Safety and Mission Assurance is go, Mike.
Thank you, Terry. Payload Launch Manager.
Hey, Mike, on behalf of the ISS Ground Processing Team, I want to say thanks to you and the shuttle team. It's been a great partnership, and we
you are go. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. Range weather.
Launch weather has no constraints for launch.
Thank you, Kathy. Atlantis Flow Director.
On behalf of Atlantis and KSC Civil Processing Team, we are go.
Thank you, Angie. Ops Manager.
See, Mike, waiting to get final go from flight here. Let's hear what he says, and we'll get back to you.
Copy that. Atlantis Launch Director, Air to Ground 1.
Atlantis, go.
Okay, Fergie, we're starting to feel pretty good down here on the ground about this one today. So on behalf of the greatest team in the world, good luck to you and your crew on the final flight of this true American icon. And so for the final time, Fergie, Doug, Sandy, and Rex, good luck, Godspeed, and have a little fun up there.
Hey, thanks to you and your team, Mike. Until the very end, you all made it look easy. The shuttle's always going to be a reflection of what a great nation can do when it dares to be bold and commits to follow through. We're not ending the journey today, Mike. We're completing a chapter of a journey that will never end. You and the thousands of men and women who gave their hearts, souls, and their lives for the cause of exploration have rewritten history. Let's light this fire one more time, Mike, and witness this great nation at its best. The crew of Atlantis is ready for launch.
Thank you, sir. We'll get you going here in a couple of minutes.
NTD, Houston flight on 212.
Go ahead, flight.
For the record, I'm go.
NTD copies, and launch director, that is our entire launch team, we are ready to proceed at this time.
I copy that. Ops Manager.
Launch director, ops manager on 212.
Yes, sir.
So you discussed it with the MMT and the flight director. We are going to take a waiver to the RTLS forecast no-go based on the potential that there would be light precip if we ended up in an RTLS. They've looked at that. Chances of thunder showers are very low, and they believe that's an acceptable risk. We have plenty of energy. We only need one end of the runway on the RTLS. I think we got some sound rationale here to take that waiver on the RTLS forecast being no-go. So with that, we are clear, no working, no issues. You're go to launch.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. And Fergie, you heard those words, so we'll get you going here shortly. Good luck, guys.
Fantastic news. Thanks, Mike.
NTD with that, you are clear to launch Atlantis.
I copy that, sir. Thank you.
The countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
TLS auto sequence has been initiated.
TLT, OTC, connect essential buses to fuel cells per your checklist.
TLT in work.
TLS is go for orbital access arm retract.
Atlantis, this OTC, this day has been over 30 years in the making. There have been many fabulous missions throughout the years. On behalf of KSC launch teams, past and present, we salute the entire astronaut corps for their dedication, not only for our expanded knowledge of the universe, but for the improvement you have contributed to on Earth. Have an excellent mission and Godspeed.
Fantastic words, Roberta. Thank you very much. Great to your team. Thank you, sir.
It's Orbiter Test Conductor Roberta Wyrick from United Space Alliance.
TLT, OTC, perform APU pre-start.
Pre-start work. OTC, TLT, 3 gray talkbacks.
Copy, 3 gray talkbacks. TLT, OTC, perform APU start.
And on.
Flight crew, OTC, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow.
That's in work.
T-minus 2 minutes.
TLS is go for ET LH2 pressurization.
T-minus 40 seconds, handing off to Atlantis' computers at T-minus 31. T-minus 35, 33.
Clock will hold at T-minus 31 seconds due to a failure.
And we have had a failure. Ground launch sequencer.
The GOG 3 track switches.
NNTDST. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. We need guys to go do the verification per the LCC, please.
All right, CMAC.
Yes, CMAC. The LCC says we need to verify using a camera, and we're positioning camera 62 right now.
Okay, let us know as soon as 62 is swung over and you can verify LCC for GVA retract, please.
This is CMAC. We verify retracted.
All right, and SPE?
And NTD, SPE concurs. They satisfy the requirements of GSE 13 pre-prime contingency. I am go.
Okay, I copy. And launch director.
Yes, sir. I heard all that and concur. Press on.
And GLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
I copy that. Countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
E-minus.
Go for auto sequence start.
Handoff to Atlantis' computers has occurred. Solid rocket booster nozzle steering check and work.
20.
Firing chain is armed.
15.
Go for main engine start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Program, Houston.
Roger, roll, Atlantis. Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis. The space shuttle spreads its wings one final time for the start of a sentimental journey into history. 24 seconds into the flight, roll program complete. Atlantis now heads down, wings level on the proper alignment for its 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 4.5 million pounds of hardware and humans taking aim on the International Space Station. 40 seconds into the flight, the three liquid fuel main engines throttling back to 72% of rated performance in the bucket, reducing stress on the shuttle as it goes transonic for the final time. Engines now revving up, standing by for the throttle up call.
Atlantis, go at throttle up, no action, DPDT.
Go with throttle up, no action on DPDT.
That call from Capcom Barry Wilmore, a transducer, instrumentation only, no action required. Atlantis now 15 miles in altitude, already 16 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, 1 minute 40 seconds into the flight. Atlantis flexing its muscles one final time. Atlantis traveling almost 2,600 miles an hour, 21 miles in altitude, 24 miles downrange, standing by for solid rocket booster separation. Booster officer confirms staging a good solid rocket booster separation. Guidance now converging. The main engine steering the shuttle on a pinpoint path to its preliminary orbit. 2 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight. Atlantis already traveling 3,200 miles an hour, 35 miles in altitude, 50 miles downrange. Eight minutes, 15 seconds into the flight, standing by for main engine cutoff. That'll be followed a few seconds later by the separation of the external fuel tank. Booster officer confirms main engine cutoff. For the last time, the space shuttle's main engines have fallen silent as the shuttle slips into the final chapter of a storied 30-year adventure. Now standing by for external tank separation. Atlantis off the tank. Commander Chris Ferguson will be maneuvering Atlantis now into an orientation to enable Sandy Magnus to capture digital still imagery of the external fuel tank as it drifts away.
So OHMS 1 is not required. Your preliminary OHMS 2 TIG, 37 minutes.
37
7 minutes. No ohms 1 required. Thanks.
Atlantis, Houston, we're back with you after an unexpected extended time off the tail. How do you copy?
Okay, we got you sort of ratty, Houston, but legible if you want to go ahead with your tag up.
Okay, hopefully it'll stay with us. Here's what I have for you. Our imagery observations are ongoing, but so far we see nothing that would indicate any concern for the vehicle or success of the mission. We've also taken a quick look at our cryo margins, with H2 being the limiter, and we see about 23 hours of margin, so almost a full day, so there's some good news there. We'll take your window report when you have it, and personally, we want to let you know that it was a beautiful launch, and from where we were, and of course those folks in Florida had a great show, and all of us here are pretty envious of your view as you pop through that cloud deck.
Okay, copy, and if you wanted a bottoms report, we went in at about 20,000 and out about a nanosecond later.
That's what we expected. We are coming to the end of the Ascent team. We're in the process of turning over to your Orbit 2 team, and we twisted Richard's arm, and instead of talking through me, we're going to let him say a few words himself.
Let's see, Fergie, just wanted to say congratulations to you, Chunky, Sandy, and Rex on a spectacular Ascent. As Butch just said, the Ascent team is signing off right now. We just wanted to wish you all of our best, and that we are with you as you accomplish your historic flight. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, Richard, I'll tell you, the honor has been all ours. I mean, you know, we're one of the fortunate few who get a chance to see the world from this perspective. I want to thank you guys, and boy, I'll tell you, I cannot wait to hear the story, both A, coming out of the T-minus 9 hold, and B, at T-minus 31 seconds. I'm sure there were a few folks on the edge of their seats down there. You know, if I could just pass to you and your team, I know we're going to see a few of you for entry. I would like to just kind of, recognize a few folks that have been just key to this program for years and years. The first one being Mark McDonald. I don't think we're going to see him for entry. Tom Arnold, of course, king of the boosters, and Joe Jones. I don't think we're going to see you for entry either. You guys have just been fantastic, and not the least of which, Richard. You guys are all heroes in our mind. You certainly deserve a round of applause, and I'd like you to stand up and take one right now if you could. It's been just a pleasure of a lifetime working with you.
Wow, Fergie, those were great words.
I think I heard one or two people clapping there. That's wonderful.
I may have gotten a couple of claps in here. Fergie, those were awesome words. You guys have a tremendous flight. We will be watching. Thanks, and I'm going to address the team here before we leave.
Godspeed, Richard.
You do the same.
And we've got our onboard video now, live onboard Space Shuttle Atlantis. These are the first views of the crews that we're getting. You can see Sandy Magnus there on the far left-hand side. As we talked about before, she's going to be sort of the load master during this flight. She's got quite a bit of responsibility getting all the different payloads and cargo moved across the hatches. There's quite a bit that's going over to the space station, and a little bit coming home on board Atlantis. Not only will the crew take care of 25,478 pounds of cargo inside the multi-purpose logistics module, but there's also quite a bit of cargo located on Atlantis's middeck. There's 2,281 pounds, a little more than a ton. So they will move all of that across to the International Space Station, locate the places for it. And then on board the station is 1,564 pounds of cargo that's going to be moved back from the station over to Atlantis's middeck for the ride home toward the end of this mission. If you look closely, you can see the test out of the latches on the end of the shuttle's robotic arm. It's merely 3 cables that basically snap together and grab onto something. A lot of people always ask us exactly how the robotic arm latches onto something, but you saw it happen just there. It's fairly quick, but those 3 snares basically pull across each other and pull taut. And that is how the robotic arm actually does its operations.